locked. Miss Miller, I'm glad to see you here.
Oh, Constable Zellner. I heard what happened to you on board. Awful. Truly awful.
All's well that ends well. You are waiting for Professor Lucien?
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow you'll be sailing down the Nile, if I heard correctly.
That's right. I'm sure it will be an amazing experience.
But you don't seem to be very excited.
Oh, but I am. It's very generous of Lady Westmacott to invite me, and especially Maddie. He'll learn a lot.
But?
Well, Professor Lucien offered to join us.
Then Matt will learn even more. And I'm sure it won't be unpleasant for you either.
No, I just don't know how Maddie would react if Edgar came with us.
I understand. I could test the water to see how he'd feel about it.
Would you do that? Oh, thank you, Constable Zellner.
Were you able to find out why Professor Lucien left the forecastle so suddenly last night?
No, not really. We only had a brief conversation. He was still very nervous.
He was like that on the train as well. Seems to be typical of him.
It must be something to do with the burglary at the museum. It really affected him. But he told me not to worry about anything. He said, soon this would all be over.
Really? How did he mean that?
Oh, I didn't ask him, Constable.
Are there other passengers from the ship here?
Oh, yes, we arrived as a group. David Kreutzer, the violinist, was with us. So were Miss Myers and Mr. Inch. He seems to have gotten over the death of the Baroness pretty quickly. He seems positively relaxed.
I've met him. He looks on the bright side of life, so to speak. Where is Mr. Kreutzer?
He's over in the treasure chamber. Maddie is downstairs in the main hall. I'm afraid I'll hear the sound of something priceless shattering any second.
Matt will be careful, Miss Miller. I'll continue my tour of the museum.
Oh, yes, there's so much to see.
Ancient Egyptian jewelry. I like that golden signet ring with a scarab made of jasper. In ancient Egypt, these beetles were regarded as symbols of fertility. Nowadays, we just call them dung beetles. I suppose the beetles don't really care. I can't read what it says, but the cover features a dashing picture of Legrand. It shows an energetic young man photographed from beneath against the sky. That's the look of a man who can catch a thief and murderer in a single day. I don't believe that Legrand spoke to the press himself. He doesn't seem to like the attention, and he wouldn't falsely take credit for something he hadn't done. Mr. Kreutzer will provide the background music tonight at the opening. Does he have anything else on his agenda? How are the acoustics, Mr. Kreutzer?
Average. I wouldn't have expected anything else from a big stone cavern.
How does it feel to have been accused of murder and to escape by the skin of your teeth? The whole thing could have had a bad ending for you. You didn't have an alibi. It was your gun.
I must admit that I can imagine better ways to spend my time than being roughed up by Inspector Legrand. Your snooping actually paid off for me this time. Did you ever suspect me?
Of murder? No. I think you're too intelligent to shoot someone with your own gun without arranging an alibi for the time of the crime. It seems like a lot of the passengers from the ship are here this morning.
Nearly all of them. I had a brief conversation with the Baroness's butler. Between you and I, he seems quite happy to be rid of the old battleship.
Mr. Kreutzer.
Young Miss Mayers was here as well. Unfortunately, it seems like she's already disappeared again.
Forget it. She's engaged.
And the old witch with her caretaker and her brat are also here.
What do you have against Lady Westmacott?
The lady is more callous than the Queen of the Night. She chased her own son away, ice cold. I met him briefly. Flew to America because he couldn't stand her anymore.
Did any of the guests behave suspiciously? Was anyone unusually interested in the treasure chamber or the security system?
I couldn't say. I'm here to check the acoustics and then I'll come back for the gala tonight. I'm not interested in your detective games.
The newspaper this morning is full of reports about the events on board.
I've seen them.
Someone must have informed the press directly from the ship. He probably got a pile of money for the story, don't you think?
And again, they want to ruin my reputation. But no, Constable, it wasn't me. I didn't even consider it. And whoever did it was a bungler.
Why?
The story is in all the papers. You get more money if you sell the dirt to just one paper, as an exclusive.
Who do you think it was?
The young guy? The stowaway?
The captain didn't press charges and let him go this morning. But up until then, he was in the cell the whole time.
Perhaps Miss Mayers. Maybe she wants to become an actress and needs a bit of publicity.
Whoever it was, they wanted to make sure that the story spread, and they weren't after money. So, what were they after? Well, I'm looking forward to the concert.
It will be an unforgettable night.
Kreutzer would be the perfect thief. He's fit, charming, knows the right people. No wonder he was at the top of Legrand's list. On the other hand, the best thieves are people that no one would ever suspect. The uninteresting, the meek, the ones who are always overlooked. Exclusive and unique. The eyes of the Sphinx exhibited together for the first time ever. Hopefully the visitors will be satisfied with a single eye. Otherwise, all this effort will be for nothing. Unfortunately, now it's just the eye of the Sphinx. But it's a bit too late to change the banner. Well-trained guards are usually the best security system, although they didn't manage to stop the Raven in London. That must be the treasure chamber where the Eye of the Sphinx is due to be exhibited. The display case is already prepared.
No, sir.
I'm from the Swiss police. I want to check the security arrangements.
No one may enter the treasure chamber before the delivery has arrived.
I've heard of this. Desert glass. In the great sand sea of the Libyan desert, there's a region where natural glass is found. Nobody knows how it formed. The valuable material was often used for jewelry in ancient Egypt. Several daggers in a row. Their shapes and patterns look timeless. elegant. What does it say here? The dagger on the left is a replica of the dagger from the tomb of Tutankhamun. It must have been incredibly precious during his lifetime because it's made of iron. Thousands of years before the Ice Age, meteorites were the only source of pure iron. So a star that fell from the sky, bringing a substance that's harder than anything they'd known before, would have been a dramatic event. No wonder they used it to forge a weapon for the godlike pharaoh. Impressive, isn't it? Thousands of years old and still beautiful.
That it is. They dug it out of the sand near Thebes over 50 years ago. I was there.
Really?
I met my husband there. He was an assistant on the dig and was ordered by the director of the excavation to take care of that writer. I financed many excavations in the following years, here in Egypt and in the Near East. I visited my husband, together with our son. It was the best time of my life. But a museum is no place for nostalgia. What can I do for you?
As always, it was an entertaining and enlightening chat, Lady Westmacott.
I'm going to miss our little chats, Constable Zellner. Goodbye.
This is Akhenaten, the only pharaoh whose portrait I always recognize. He has a very unusual head. Aha! This shows how the ancient Egyptians were able to move the heavy blocks of stone to build their pyramids and temples. They used ropes, wooden sleds, and poles as levers. These exhibits aren't originals, of course. They're reconstructed, based on old pictures. Nonetheless, it's impressive how they managed to build monuments like the pyramids with such simple tools. A figure of Imhotep, who comes in peace from around 2700 BC. The first polymath known by name, godfather of medicine, architect of the first pyramids, and according to legend, the inventor of Egyptian writing. He certainly achieved more than me in his life. Akhenaten was the husband of Nefertiti and the father of Tutankhamun, a famous family. But he went down in history as the pharaoh who wanted to eliminate the old gods and replace them with a single god. The priests took offense, and he died of unknown causes. He was a legend. The Greeks called him a god. The Romans still honored him 3,000 years after his death. Even today, scholars offer a drop of ink to Imhotep when they begin a new project. Really impressive. Lady Westmacott.
Yes?
You've had a long and successful life, Lady Westmacott.
What's that supposed to mean, Mr. Zellner? That I should be ready to leave the stage? Because I'm not.
Oh, I didn't want...
I'm here because life is here, Constable. Or was. I have never lived as much as I have here. No fame, no money can buy that.
I understand.
I'm sorry, Constable Zellner. Such an outburst isn't fitting for a woman of my age, and an English woman at that. Let's talk about something else.
Your son. You haven't said much about him. Or perhaps you did, just not by name.
You're an attentive listener, Mr. Zellner.
I was wondering why you knew so much about Miss Miller's unhappy marriage.
I stopped paying his bar tabs, stopped paying reporters to hush things up. He got to know her and went with her to America to start a new life. You can change your name easily, but not who you really are. He has my eyes, doesn't he?
The Part 2 novel is for him, isn't it?
If I couldn't provide Matthew with a good father, then at least I can provide him with a good start in life.
When I was working on the ship, I felt like one of the detectives in your novels.
You were lucky. It was an unusual murder. Most murders happen in the heat of the moment or are committed by idiots. They're uninspired. But Gebhardt thought it through. He could have succeeded.
I don't know. He made too many mistakes.
He couldn't have known that the Baroness, almost unconscious from the drugs, would lock her cabin door.
But that was a risk. The plan was too complicated and sloppily executed.
You certainly are a harsh critic, Mr. Zellner.
He could have shot her on the side deck and thrown the weapon into the sea. With no witnesses, no one would have suspected him.
How boring.
Or if it had to be a complicated plan, then he should have worked more carefully. Should have thought of everything, had a plan B in place.
Maybe he didn't have enough time. He had only a few hours to plan and commit the murder.
Still, he should have covered his tracks more carefully. The audio tape, the bloody glove, none of that should have stayed in the medical center. Do you think that Dr. Gebhardt was the Raven?
Was? Do you think he's dead?
The letter sounded like he committed suicide.
There's your answer. Does that sound like the Raven? Being unmasked? Taking the easy way out?
My sentiments exactly. The Raven wouldn't commit murder, get caught, and then jump into the sea.
You don't want everything to be over, do you?
It's my chance to do something great. It can't be over yet.
At least you solved the murder of the Baroness. You're a hero.
That's not how the newspapers see it, nor I. Something's missing. I can achieve more.
Careful, Constable. He who flies too close to the sun...
Is that the myth of Icarus?
To be honest, no. The story is Greek, and was only written down 1,000 years later. I was counting on the dramatic effect.
Oh, worked well enough. Let's assume that the thief is still out there. Who is he?
If all this were a novel, then it would be the one you least expect.
Is that intended to be a confession, Lady Westmacott?
What do we know about the new Raven?
He's a man who would stop at nothing.
Must it be a man? And how do we know that it's just one person? There could be several people collectively pretending to be the Raven.
So, we don't know anything.
That's not completely true. We know that he or she wants the Eye of the Sphinx, and will probably strike here, assuming he or she hasn't already gone.
It may be the end of the story for me, Lady Westmacott. Inspector Legrand will arrive soon and send me to the hotel. I return tonight for the gala, hoping all the while that the Raven does dare to attempt a burglary. Tomorrow morning, I'll have to return to Switzerland. What an unsatisfactory ending that would be.
It wouldn't be a triumphant ending, but it could be worse. At least you'd still be alive, Constable.
Will you attend the gala tonight, Lady Westmacott?
But of course, the antiquities, the delightful atmosphere, and who knows, perhaps there will be another spectacular burglary.
And your cruise?
The ship doesn't leave until tomorrow, and believe me, I'd cancel the cruise for this.
Goodbye, Lady Westmacott.
Goodbye, Constable Zellner.